I really had to stop for a minute in this 5-year-long process it took me to write this book and say, what can I do? What can I give? What's my gift? And I'll tell you honestly, I'm a pretty good facilitator. No, I'm an excellent facilitator, right?
Yes, you are.
I'm good at facilitating groups. I know that the groups that we do for men are so important. So it's like, let me figure out how to put my gifts in book form. So that's what you have in front of you. I won't tell you the whole story. The introduction of the book will go into that more in depth. What I want to do with you today as a facilitator is to give you a little bit of the power of this book. Because I think in me stepping back and thinking about what did I want to do, I came up with a really great concept. And we're going to talk about that for a minute in the 10 minutes I have left, right? Is that who's doing timekeeping for me? Because I got 5 minutes in, so I got 10 minutes left. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll keep you last 10 minutes.
Okay, good. So he's going to keep the 10 minutes. That's one thing about facilitators. We keep track of time, right? So the other thing about facilitators is we get people talking. So you guys facilitate. I want to ask you the hardest parts of facilitation. So I want to get a few responses. Like, what do you guys think? The hardest part of facilitating, let's say, fathers groups. Patty.
Keeping on task.
Keeping on task. Keeping
Slash topic.
Yeah.
on task slash topic. Okay, what else? What another hard part of facilitating groups?
Getting them to talk at all.
Excellent.
Yeah.
We all know that. Getting them to talk. Getting them to talk. You're sitting there first couple, and we know that's the first couple of nights. So you can keep them there past a few nights. It's hard to get them to shut up, right? But getting them to open up, because especially as men, right? And I don't know whether this. I talk to so many people about men, but we don't like to share our feelings. That's one of the raps on us, right? But you get them in these groups, and people start to open up. But we're taught from very early on to negate our feelings. And so when we come to a group and people are actually asking how we feel, it's kind of unusual for us, because people, if people say like, oh, how you feel, and you tell, usually it's a loved one, right? Partner saying how you feel, and you tell how you really feel, and then you get in trouble, right? So you learn very early, don't tell her how you feel, right? What are you thinking about?
Building trust.
Building trust. And break that down for us. Is it Rose?
You can call me Rose.
Rose is good. Okay, so Rose, what do you mean by building trust?
I mean, you're not there mandated, you're not there forced by your partner. So eventually to feel like you are going to help.
Oh, building trust, feeling you will help me, feeling you will help me. And you're not just another social service provider who's there kind of, doing their own thing. We'll take 2 or 3 more. 1, 2, 3. We'll come back to you, maybe. We'll get you in, Fernando. Carlos.
Finally, you get them to talk, and then how tactfully and carefully tell them to stop so other people can talk.
Yeah, so this is a great one. So
setting limits, is that would that
but let's just so tactfully getting people to stop talking. Tactfully.
I think of it as managing the maverick.
Yeah. Getting people to stop. And I can write much more neater than this, but I'm not, time is limited. So I'm going to actually move. I saw a hand there. Okay, it's Roy, sorry. Then we'll come up to Howard. Roy.
It's about giving into the power of the outcome, which understanding just because you're giving great information, you're giving real information, scientific data, doesn't mean that person's going to still get it.
So getting into the power of the outcome. So let me see if I understand that right. So we know that this is something good's going to happen. We know that, because we've seen this happen, we've kind of experienced in our own lives, but that they may not trust that we're going to take them to a good place. Is that what you mean, or?
It's more than a trust, it's just all the biases they may have. So what we usually do, a lot of referrals come from DCF and all these things, and as we talked about here, I'm a great father. The past of this, how I was raised, I'm fine. Right. You could say all these things, but just going back to it, I'm still going to spank my child.
Right. So it's something about like men's willingness to change, like a resistance to change. Okay, gotcha. That's a good one. So some of the other hardest parts is just men being resistant to change. Okay, and how are we going to give you the last one on this? Sorry, Fernando.
One of the things I find is difficult is letting go of the outcome.
That's what you were saying.
Letting go of outcome. Now, I also practice yoga, and that's a very kind of yogic idea, because this thing that you can do the work, but you can't be attached to the fruit. We can plant these seeds, but we don't really know where it's going to go. We can invite, 100 guys to group, and we don't know who's really going to show up. So you do the work, and you don't know what's going to happen, but you have to keep doing the work anyways. Cool. So what I want to do now is help you connect to my book, my forthcoming book, a little bit more, right? By looking at these hard parts of facilitation and thinking about, well, what's this whole idea about archetypes and how is that going to help? So you'll see on this inside, the mock-up of the cover, you'll see I've given you 22 keys to group mastery. Now, I have to say, this is pretty awesome. I'm so excited about this, right? Because what I did is I had years and years and years of facilitation, and with only 5 minutes left, I'm going to give you this big shot, right?
Have you sold a book yet?
Have I sold a book yet? I've not even printed a book
Well,
yet.
you sold one now.
First one! All right, so so I'm going to give you this and come back, right? That you got an order form. So I'm going to ask you, right, to fill out the order form, right? And then you can give me and this is a special treat for folks here at the Invitational Summit. Since I don't have the book in hand, $15, right? You give me $15 for the book now, and I will eat the tax. I will eat the shipping, and by the end of the year, the estimated due date of July, the publication date, I will inscribe the book for you and mail it to the address you give me, okay? So you get a special deal by coming here and being here as a part of this, right? So you probably got a little bit of my excitement, but here's the thing about the archetypes, is that we do this already. You have some concept of these archetypes already in that, let's say keeping on task, right? For that one, I would say number 2, right? If you look at the scientist. Now, I didn't even explain the archetypes. It's a common phrase that's around, but basically, it's a big personality type. And the amazing thing about archetypes is that they're cross-culture. In all cultures, we have an idea about the scientist. There are scientists, the idea exists in Latino culture. I don't know, what's the word for scientist in Spanish?
Científico.
Científico, right? And we know what that means, right? Carlos said an archetype yesterday, jefe. Right? I know that means chief, right? I don't speak much Spanish, but I know a CEO, I know a chief man when I hear it, right? So these archetypes go across culture. Now the scientist is an archetype, right? And that's what we need when we think about keeping on track. And that's why I know I've got 3 minutes left by my, actually 2 minutes, right?
2:45.
2:45. So as a scientist, right, I want to keep track. I know there's a lot that I have to do. So what the scientist allows me to do is he manages the time and activities. That's the powerful action, so that there's so much going on in the group at any one time, but the scientist has to be aware of the time. If you have a co-facilitator, often they can be helpful with that. The other thing I want to share with you around the archetypes that's in the book, there's 22 chapters in the book, and each one goes into these archetypes really in depth. Mark was really kind. I'm going to take Fernando now, since he's one of my mentors, and he had a chance to read the book as well.
I think Hajar is wonderful talking about the book, but I just got to say, I read the book, and I was just enchanted. It's really deep. It will, no matter what level you think you are. And I thought I thought I had 20 years experience doing groups and